Have you ever felt like someone was watching you? Even when you were completely alone? That creeping sensation that makes your skin crawl. The one that tells you something isn't quite right. What I'm about to tell you happened 3 years ago, and it's changed the way I look at every dark corner, every unexplained sound, every moment when I'm alone. This isn't just another scary story. This is real. I moved into my apartment in the fall of 2021, right after starting my new job in Seattle. The building was old, built sometime in the 1940s. High ceilings, original hardwood floors, those big windows that let in plenty of natural light during the day. The rent was reasonable for the area. My landlord told me the building had good bones and good history. I had no idea what she really meant. The apartment was a studio on the 3rd floor, the top floor, at the end of the hallway. One main room, tiny kitchen, and a bathroom so small you could practically wash your hands while sitting on the toilet. But it was mine, my first place living completely alone. I was excited about the independence. The first few weeks were normal. I unpacked, arranged furniture, got into a routine. The building was quiet most of the time. The only weird thing I noticed early on was that the hallway light outside my door would flicker, especially late at night. I mentioned it to my landlord. She said she'd have someone look at it. But weeks passed and nothing changed. I got used to it. Then about a month after I moved in, things started getting strange. It began with small things I could easily rationalize away. I'd come home from work and find my bathroom door open, when I was certain I'd closed it that morning. I'm pretty particular about things like that. Always have been. Then it happened again and again. Always the bathroom door, always standing wide open when I got home. I started testing myself, making a point to close it firmly, even taking a mental snapshot before I left. But it kept happening. I even considered that maybe the door wasn't hung properly, that it might swing open on its own. But when I tested it, the door stayed exactly where I positioned it. There was no draft, no reason for it to move. Still, I told myself it had to be something logical, something I was missing. Around the same time, I started noticing items moved around in my apartment. Nothing major, just little things out of place. My coffee mug that I always left on the left side of the sink would be on the right. A book I'd been reading would be in a different room. My work shoes, which I kept by the door, would be in the middle of the room. Each time it happened, I questioned my own memory. Was I really that absent-minded? Was the stress making me forgetful? The next thing I noticed was the cold spots. There was this one area in my apartment, right between the kitchen and the main room, where the temperature would drop dramatically. Not just cool, but genuinely cold, like stepping into a walk-in freezer. It didn't matter if the heat was on. That spot was always ice cold. I could literally feel the temperature change as I walked through it. I checked for drafts, looked at the windows, called maintenance. They found nothing wrong. But what really started to disturb me were the sounds. At first I thought it was just the building settling. But these sounds were different. They were rhythmic, almost purposeful. I'd hear footsteps in the hallway outside my door late at night, slow and deliberate, starting from the stairwell and stopping right outside my apartment. Then nothing. No door opening. No footsteps continuing. Just silence. This happened multiple times a week, always between 2 and 3 in the morning. I'd look through the peephole, but the hallway would be empty. That flickering light made it hard to see clearly, casting strange shadows that seemed to move on their own. A few times I actually opened the door to check, my heart pounding, but there was never anyone there. Just the empty hallway and that broken light, buzzing and flickering. One night I decided to stay up and wait. I wanted to catch whoever was walking around out there. I sat on my couch with the lights off, watching the gap under my door. Around 2:30, I saw it. A shadow passed by, blocking out the dim light from the hallway. The footsteps came with it, slow and heavy. The shadow stopped right in front of my door. I could see the dark shape in the gap, just standing there. Then I heard something that made my blood run cold. Breathing. Deep, raspy breathing, right on the other side of the door. I sat frozen, unable to move, unable to even think. The breathing continued for what felt like an eternity. Then the shadow moved away. The footsteps resumed, and I heard them going down the stairs. I waited another 20 minutes before I finally got up the courage to check the peephole. Nothing. Empty hallway. But I knew what I'd heard. The next morning, I went straight to my landlord. I told her everything. She listened quietly, her expression unreadable. Then she asked me if I'd noticed anything else unusual about the apartment itself. That's when she told me about the previous tenant, a man named David Marsh. He'd lived in my apartment for almost 15 years. According to her, he was a quiet man, kept to himself, never caused any problems. But about 6 months before I moved in, his behavior changed. He became paranoid. He'd accuse other tenants of coming into his apartment, of watching him, of moving his things. His mental state deteriorated rapidly. He stopped going to work, stopped leaving his apartment altogether. My landlord would hear him talking to himself, sometimes arguing with someone, his voice getting louder and more agitated. She tried to check on him multiple times, but he wouldn't answer the door. He'd just yell at her to go away, that they were listening, that they were waiting for him. Then one morning, she noticed his newspaper was still outside his door. It had been there for 3 days. She used her master key to enter the apartment. What she found still haunts her. David was sitting in the bathtub, fully clothed, catatonic, staring at the wall. His eyes were wide open, unblinking, and his skin was ice cold. Emergency services took him away, and he was institutionalized. My landlord said he never spoke again, never acknowledged anyone. He just sat and stared, like he was seeing something no one else could see. After hearing this, I felt sick. I asked her why she didn't tell me this before I moved in. She said she didn't think it mattered. David had mental health issues. It was tragic, but it had nothing to do with the apartment itself. I asked if anyone else had lived there between David and me. She said no. The apartment had been empty for months. No one wanted it after what happened. That night I seriously considered breaking my lease and moving out. But I'd already put down first month, last month, and a security deposit. I couldn't afford to lose all that money. I decided to stick it out, to be rational about it. David had been mentally ill. The noises and strange occurrences were probably just my imagination running wild after hearing his story. I could handle this. I had to handle this. But things only got worse. The bathroom door didn't just open anymore. Now it would slam shut, hard enough to rattle the frame. I'd be watching television, and suddenly, boom, the door would slam closed. My heart would nearly stop every single time. I started leaving it open permanently, propping a shoe against it. But somehow the shoe would be moved, and the door would be shut anyway. I stopped using that bathroom at night. I'd hold it until morning. The cold spot expanded. What started as a small area became almost half my apartment. I'd wake up in the middle of the night shivering, my breath visible in the air, even though the thermostat said it was 72 degrees. And then I started seeing things, just out of the corner of my eye at first. Dark shapes that would disappear when I turned to look directly at them. But they became more frequent, more solid. I'd see a figure in my peripheral vision, tall and thin, always in the same spot, right near the bathroom door. When I'd turn my head, it would be gone, but the feeling of being watched would remain. That presence, that weight of unseen eyes became constant. I felt it when I was cooking, when I was working from home, when I was trying to sleep. Always there, always watching. One night, I woke up around 3 in the morning, and I couldn't move. I've heard of sleep paralysis, know that it's a real medical thing, but this felt different. I was fully conscious, fully aware, but my body wouldn't respond. And standing at the foot of my bed was a figure, darker than the surrounding darkness, impossibly tall, with no discernible features, just a void in the shape of a person. I tried to scream, but no sound came out. I tried to move, but my limbs were locked in place. Time seemed to stop. All I knew was the terror, pure and absolute. Then as suddenly as it began, it was over. The figure was gone, and I could move again. I gasped for air, my whole body trembling. I turned on every light in the apartment and didn't sleep for the rest of the night. I tried to tell myself it was sleep paralysis, that the shadow figure was a hallucination. But I knew better. I'd felt it, really felt it, and it was real. Something was in that apartment with me. I started researching the building, digging through old records and newspaper archives online. Then I found something that made everything click into place. In 1952, there had been a death in the building. A woman named Eleanor Voss had died in the third-floor apartment. My apartment. She'd been found by her sister after not showing up for a family dinner. Eleanor had died of unknown causes. No signs of foul play, no apparent illness. She was just found dead in her bathtub, eyes wide open, staring at nothing. The similarities were impossible to ignore. The bathtub, the staring, the sense of something wrong. I kept digging and found Eleanor's obituary. She'd been a young woman, only 32, described as vibrant and social, with no history of health problems. But the article mentioned that in the days before her death, Eleanor had told friends she felt like she was being watched in her apartment, that she'd hear footsteps outside her door at night, that she was scared to be alone. Her friends had dismissed it as stress or anxiety. No one took her seriously, and then she was dead. I felt a connection to Eleanor, a kinship born of shared terror. She'd experienced the same things I was experiencing. She'd been targeted by the same presence, and it had killed her. The thought that I might end up like her, like David, paralyzed with fear or worse, drove me to action. I couldn't just wait around for whatever this thing was to finish with me. I reached out to a paranormal investigation group based in Seattle. I was desperate. They agreed to come investigate. A week later, 3 people showed up at my apartment with equipment I didn't understand. They set up and spent the night in my apartment while I stayed at a friend's place. The next morning they called me. Their lead investigator sounded shaken. She said they'd captured evidence of something they couldn't explain. Temperature drops of 40 degrees in seconds. Voice recordings of a woman saying, "Get out," and "He's here." And on one of their cameras they'd captured something that made even them uncomfortable. A dark shadow figure standing in the bathroom doorway, watching them, just as I described. She told me that in her 10 years of investigating, she'd never encountered something this active, this malevolent. She recommended I leave the apartment immediately, that whatever was there was dangerous and getting stronger. She believed it was feeding off my fear. I took her advice. I went to my landlord with the investigation report and told her I was leaving. She didn't fight me on it. In fact, she looked relieved. She admitted that she'd known the apartment was wrong. She'd rented it to me because she needed the income. She was wrong, and she knew it. I moved out that week, throwing most of my belongings into storage and crashing with friends until I found a new place. I didn't take anything from the bathroom, didn't even go in there to pack. Whatever I'd left in there could stay. It's been 3 years now, and I'm in a different apartment, in a different part of the city. I don't experience any of those things anymore. No moved objects, no cold spots, no shadows, no footsteps. I sleep through the night. I feel safe, but I'm changed by what happened. I believe in things I never believed in before. I understand now that there are places where something wrong has taken root, where the boundary between our world and something else has worn thin. I drive past my old building sometimes. Can't help myself. It's still there, still standing. And as far as I know, my old apartment is still empty. My landlord hasn't found anyone willing to rent it. Maybe she stopped trying. I hope she has. Because whatever is in there, whatever drove Eleanor to her death and David to madness, whatever tormented me for those terrible months, it's still there. Still waiting in that cold, dark space. Still watching the door. Still breathing on the other side. Patient and hungry. Ready for the next person foolish enough to move in. And if you ever find yourself looking at an apartment that seems too good to be true, with rent that's just a little too cheap for the area, and the landlord seems just a little too eager to get you to sign the lease, ask questions. Ask about the history. Ask about previous tenants. Ask if anyone died there. If anyone left under strange circumstances. Because some places aren't meant to be lived in. Some doors aren't meant to be opened. And some things, once you invite them into your life, never really let you go. Trust your instincts. If something feels wrong, it probably is. Don't ignore the signs like I did. Don't wait until it's too late. Because by the time you realize what you're dealing with, you might already be exactly where it wants you. Alone, terrified, and trapped with no way out.